What's up, everybody? Jaden Rye here with Team Lone Star Discs, and this is my In the Bag. Getting right into it, starting off with the putting putters. I putt with the Delta 2 Bennies. Really liking these, shallow profile with a small bead on it, but very glidey. Just pop them right at the basket, and I know exactly what they're gonna do. So. Next up, I bagged 2 caches. First off, we got a soft cache from Hooligan Discs. This one is very beat up and just pretty straight. I know exactly what it's going to do. And I throw this mainly backhand. I don't really ever throw this forehand. But the other cache I have, the Alpha, this is one of my workhorses in the bag. I throw this both forehand and backhand a lot. For forehand, it's just basically straight. And I just pop it right at the basket and I know exactly what it's going to do. Next, I've got 2 harpoons in the bag. First off, one of my favorites, the Glow harpoon. This thing is amazing. I love it for just like easy backhand shots. It's just going to fly straight with a little bit of turnover, or just going to hold the turn. And then for forehands, I really like this for just standstill forehand shots or just like slight turnover forehands. This thing is a workhorse in my bag, especially in the woods. And going on from there, I bag a Victor 2 harpoon. This one I love for forehand approach shots. I don't ever throw it backhand, but it's just pretty overstable. And it's just going to hit the ground and sit and not going to move afterwards. So definitely one that I rely on a lot. So, and then freshly new to the bag is the Alpha Artemis. This thing is basically just in between the Glow harpoon and the Victor harpoon. A little bit more stability and a lot more glide. So I'm loving this thing. Moving on into the mid-ranges, starting with the flippiest, I've got the 1-year anniversary Hooligan rope. This thing is pretty flippy. I can get it starting on hyzer and it'll pop up and go straight and then just kind of like hold to the right. It's not gonna like dump over on me, but this thing's very nice and very good for the woods. Going up from there, got the Alpha Ranger. This thing is another one of my go-tos. This is just a straight flyer. Pop it on a little bit of hyzer, and it's just going to go dead straight. I can give it a little ante, and it's going to hold the whole way. This thing is one that I lean on a lot. Step up from that is the Alpha Midi. This one's probably my most thrown mid-range. This thing is just dead straight, basically. I pop it on a baby hyzer. It'll fly straight and fade out a little bit at the very end. It's going to hold up in any sort of wind as well. So it's just something I rely on a lot, and I know exactly what it's going to do. Going along with that, I've got the Founders Midi. Shout out Charlie Moore. This one is a beefcake, very overstable. Step up from that, so anytime I need to throw a midi shot in the wind, this is what I'll throw, and this is what I'll rely on. And then finally, with the mid-ranges, I bag 2 walkers. I bag a Glow walker and a Delta 2 walker. The Glow one has a little bit more glide than the Delta one, and so this one I can get to kind of go anywhere between 250, 300 with ease, and I don't really have to throw it super hard. It's one of my go-to approach discs. And then I've also got the Delta walker. This thing is just an absolute meat hook. Very overstable. I pop it on ante, flat. I probably rarely throw this thing on hyzer unless I'm throwing it like 100 feet, but I can get this thing to go anywhere between 250 feet to 300 at absolute most. But this thing just hits the ground and sits and doesn't go anywhere, and that's one reason why I really like it. So, alrighty, going on from there into the fairways. We'll start with the Frios, my favorite fairway in the Lone Star lineup. I got 2. I've got an Alpha one and a Charlie one. First off, this Alpha one is my flippier of the 2. I can just pop it flat and it'll just turn the whole way, or pop it on a little bit of hyzer and it'll pop up straight. I really love this Frio. It is my go-to disc in the woods, no matter how far the hole is. These are the discs I'll be reaching for. But the Frio is the Charlie Frio is just a step up from the Alpha one. Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's my go-to. Going up from the Frios, I got 1 Alpha Brazos. This is just a touch more stable. It can handle the wind a little bit better, and I can kind of finesse it on more kind of like flex lines, start on a little bit of ante, and it'll just kind of pop to flat and hold. It's not going to dump too much, but really liking the Brazos. And going up from the Brazos, I've got the Alpha Dos Equis. This thing I really like a lot for forehands or just more overstable Brazos shots, basically. Whenever it gets windy, I can rely on this to just go dead straight with a little bit of fade at the end. And for forehands, this is one of like my go-tos in the woods because I can get touchy with it, and it'll hold the forehand torque, and then it'll fade out at the end. Just very straight flyer, and yeah. And then rounding off the fairways, I got two Chupacabras, both in the Alpha plastic. This first one is very beat up and is my straight one. I rely on it a lot for just kind of like straight to overstable forehand shots. I do throw it a little bit backhand, but mostly forehand. And then we got the Gabriel Hernandez Alpha Chupacabra. A lot of people see this and ask me about it. I ended up losing a bet to my buddy back home, and so I had to get his face dyed on my disc. And it's hilarious. It's a great conversation starter, but this thing is awesome, not just because of the face on the disc, but it's a meat hook, and I throw it in any sort of winds, and I know exactly what it's going to do. Very reliable, and overall, it's just a fun disc to throw. Going on to the distance drivers, starting out with the flippiest, I've got an Alpha Vibe from Hooligan as well. This is my go-to, just like big distance shot, or like big turnover distance driver. Pretty flippy. I'll start it on some hyzer and it'll pop up and just go straight forever. It's got tons of glide, or just pop it on big anti-turnovers and it'll just hold it the entire way and just slowly pan out. Going up from there, I've actually got two Alpha bayonets. This one being the flippier of the two. And these are just kind of like my go-to, or some of my go-to distance drivers for a little bit extra distance. I throw these a lot forehand because I don't have to like throw it super hard. I can pop them on a little bit of hyzer to flat and they're just gonna glide forever. But yeah, bayonets are easily my furthest flying disc in my bag, no questions asked. Next, I've got two Robert Burridge Yeats. These I definitely will say are my go-to like backhand distance drivers. I do throw them forehand, but I throw these more backhand than anything. And you'll see me rely on these on any sort of open course where I'm throwing a bunch of like max distance shots, but still trying to have control. Both of them are very good in the wind. This one's my straighter of the two. This one's more overstable. But the Yeats just feels so good in my hand. And yeah, shout out to Robert Burridge for hooking me up with these. Going up from there, I've got a Proto Warbird. This thing is very stable. Doesn't have as much glide as these Yeats, but that's why I like it, because it's just a step up from them. Still holds the straight flight with fade at the end. But yeah, feels great forehand, backhand, and I love it. And wrapping up the distance drivers, I've got two of my Founder Seguins. These things are my go-tos in any sort of, or on any sort of windy day. This one's my straighter of the two, and this one is my Beefcake, and I can rely on them, like I said, on any sort of shots. I throw them a lot, flex forehand, straight backhand shots that just pierce through the wind and just like fade hard left. Very, very reliable disc, and definitely one of my favorites in my bag, and I'm not biased at all. Alrighty, I got three like utility discs that I keep in the side. I don't really throw them that often, but you never know when you might need them. First off, we got the Alpha Tumbleweed, obviously my go-to roller discs. You'll see me throwing this a lot on open courses where there's not too much OB that I can find, but I'm loving this thing for kind of like hyzer flip to rollers, or just like big air shot turnovers that go like 300 feet before getting down and rolling. But this thing is one of like my go-to roller discs, and something I lean on quite a bit. And going up from that, I'll have another Hooligan disc Vibe. This one is beat to heck and is lots flippier than the other one I have, but it is more stable than my Tumbleweed, so it is my long distance roller disc. I don't throw it that often, but I do throw it occasionally on some like air shots in the woods where I'm throwing probably 40-50%. And I just need it I'll throw it on hyzer and it'll pop up and ride forever. So yeah. And then last but not least, a Glow Tombstone. This thing is just absolute meat hook, doesn't go anywhere. This is one of like the first runs. It's just super flat. But I love this thing. I can throw it both forehand, backhand. I'll throw forehand rollers with it, but mostly it's in the bag for grenades. It feels really good in the hand for grenades, and it comes out clean, and I know exactly what it's gonna do. So that is gonna do it for my in the bag. Shout out to my sponsors, Lone Star Discs, Hooligan Discs, Upper Park bags. I am using the Upper Park Rebel bag in the onyx color. Really liking this. Very easy access to the putter pockets and the main pouch, and the sides are big enough to hold discs and all sorts of goodies. So, but also thank you to Big Country Beef Jerky, Ray's Energy, and Bad Discs.